All right, all right, all right. Looks like we're live here. I want to welcome everybody to DevChat Late Night series brought to you by AlphaStacks.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave comments below. Stephen House, and we've got Josh as well. Josh Garrett. And then Chad is going to be presenting today on Drupal, and it's essentially Drupal fundamentals. He's going to tell you a little bit more about that. Looks like we've got uh, Gilmore on the line as well, and we've got Raspberry. So I'm going to go ahead and do a just short, quick round table. Just tell kind of what languages you do, and we'll get this started. So I do cross-platform. I've done a lot of PHP, JavaScript, moving into mobile and some Objective-C. So that's what I got going on. Josh. Josh, can you hear me? All right, we might be having technical difficulties, so
Josh is on mute.
we'll go ahead and he's stuck on mute. Well, we'll go ahead and bring it over to Chad. Chad, tell us a little bit about yourself and what this is going to be on.
Yeah, I am Chad. I'm a Drupal PHP developer, and tonight's topic's going to be on Drupal, and we'll just go over the what makes Drupal good, what makes it bad, and kind of how it works, and give you a real brief introduction to Drupal, and that's about it.
Awesome, awesome. Looking forward to that. Okay, we'll do Gilmore next.
Hey guys, I'm Gilmore Gilly. I'm a server head. I actually have my own Linux distro. I'm courtesy of Stephen and Josh here. I'm learning crazy amounts of Drupal, PHP. I actually know a little bit of Java. Yes, a small dirty secret. I know PHP or what is that Java? That's
Nice.
kind of a sponge. So you tell me, hey, can you learn this? Boom, I can probably do it. So.
Awesome. We're going to be looking forward to a future talk by you on some architecture stuff. And lastly, we got Ray. Ray, what's going on?
I'm Ray, and I'm a Java dev. There we go.
Right. Sweet, sweet. Without much ado, then let's get on and gear this off. Um, let's see, Chad. Let's start this off.
Okay. And if anybody's got any questions while I'm going through this, feel free to just ask me, either on the chat, if anybody's listening in on the chat, or just interrupt me. First thing I'm gonna start out with is what is Drupal, and I actually took this from the Wikipedia page. Drupal is a free and open source content management framework written in PHP and distributed under the general public license. And it is used as a backend framework for at least 2.1% of all websites, ranging from personal blogs to political to government sites. And so, what are the pros of Drupal? It's open source, extremely flexible and powerful. There's a large developer community, a large number of plugins, and for the most part, it is secure. With anything, there is some oftentimes security vulnerabilities will come up or whatever. What is the cons of using Drupal? It's a little bit complex to set up and get going. It does very little out of the box, so just installing Drupal really doesn't get you much anywhere. So there's there's very little out of the box, and then out of the box also the performance is not that great. And that's just a small number of the pros and cons of Drupal. Let's see. one point I do want to hit is a lot of people dislike Drupal for whatever reason. So I want to hit on some of the reasons why it is disliked by developers. One is there's a large learning curve for developers. So a lot of people get frustrated when they first start developing in Drupal because there is a huge learning curve. Um, Drupal 7 and earlier was not really up to date in the latest design patterns in the traditional sense, although it does use many of the modern day design patterns. And then Drupal 8 took a huge leap to kind of modernize Drupal. So I think a lot of people who are from Laravel or Symfony or those kind of frameworks will start picking up Drupal a lot easier. And to do things effectively in Drupal, you have to know the API and many of the contrib modules. So this goes back to does very little out of the box. So a lot of people, they dislike Drupal because of that. And a lot of people dislike Drupal because it's in PHP. A lot of PHP gets a lot of bad rap in the developer world. And I think that's because it's not as strict as most languages. And it does lack some of the modern programming features. Like in our last session, we went over Java, and it had a lot of lists, collections, and those kind of things that PHP lacks. So a lot of that is more, PHP uses arrays instead of, lists and that kind of stuff. But PHP 7 and Facebook's HHVM, which is a modification of PHP, it does change this. So PHP is moving more modern. So I think a lot of stuff that kind of stigma will disappear. So
Yeah, yeah, the HHVM I've seen that's really quite a solid project. Josh was saying something about the execution time compared to what I think PHP 5.5. It's significantly faster, and I think it's right on par perhaps with the new version, which I believe is going to be 7 for PHP. Is that right?
It actually failed pretty badly on 7.
Are you saying that?
Oh, HHVM did.
It was supposed to do pretty good on 7, but I've looked at a lot of the recent benchmarks, and 7 still falls kind of short.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and PHP 7 is that was kind of the big push because people were saying PHP is going to get left behind for HHVM, and the good thing is I believe, and I wouldn't quote me on this, but Drupal will run on HHVM without any issues. So so if you want to go fast.
Okay, so pretty much it's a maturing content management framework or content management system, and it's on PHP. So I'm assuming MySQL on the back end.
Yeah,
okay,
you can use
yeah,
MySQL or Post. What is it called? Post. You know what I'm talking about. Or you can use Mongo.
Postgres.
Postgres, yeah, you can use Postgres, and there's actual SQL server. There is contrib modules that can connect to almost pretty much any back-end SQL querying language. So
yeah, Josh has got that working for Drupal already. So awesome. Yeah, well let's get into the nuts and bolts a little.
Okay. And okay, so the first thing before we even begin, I'm going to kind of move forward a little bit, kind of a more advanced, and get into Drush. And Drush is basically a command line tool for managing and interacting with Drupal. And the reason why I'm hopping to that because we're going to go actually install Drupal using Drush. So let's pop that guy open here.
Every day I'm drushing it, right?
All day, every day.
All right.
Okay, can you see my terminal? Okay, so first thing to do with Drupal, and this is pretty cool. So using Drush, we're going to just download Drupal, right? So you just type in Drush DL um, and dash dash destination equals. That means it's going to install it right here in the folder that I'm in. And then dash dash Drupal dash project dash rename equals. I'm just going to call it Drupal. And that is going to download Drupal. So we'll give it a second here. Okay, so there we see that it downloaded. It told us all the modules, that's included with core. And actually, it looks like it downloaded Drupal 8. So already, let me. So one thing before we even begin, so Drush is Drupal 8 is kind of the latest. So most of the demos that I'm going to be doing is on Drupal 7. So Drush by default now is on 8. So give me just a second here.
Yeah, that's good to know. That must have just happened. Oh, and so Drush stands for Drupal Shell.
Yep.
Pretty much a CLI API in order to integrate and do a bunch of tasks on Drupal efficiently and quickly. So it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, and it's a management tool to use. So actually, hold on just a second here. Sorry, I got sidetracked because I completely forgot that. So since Drupal 8 is the big push now, when you run commands like drush download, it's going to download Drupal 8 because so there's a flag that I need to figure out real quick on how to download it for Drupal 7. And
is that because it does latest?
It does the latest version of Drupal 8, yeah, but you can tell it to download. So give me a second. Actually,
Meanwhile, this message is brought to you by
everyone but Budweiser.
Yeah. Okay, so instead of wasting time figuring that out, I just downloaded. I just typed in drush download Drupal-7.x, and then basically we'll download the latest version of Drupal 7. So I don't want to sit here and have to Google it real quick and figure it out. So we'll go from there. So next, the next command, we're going to go ahead and install Drupal. So I'm going to rename this folder to Drupal, cd into Drupal. And to install it, we need to go to the site's default folder. And in this folder, there is going to be a default.settings.php. So real quick, we need to make a folder called files, and what this is going to do is going to hold any files that are uploaded through the CMS. This is where it's going to be held, and I'm going to make it writable here. And then I'm going to copy the default settings to just settings.php. So this is going to give us our file folder and our settings.php. So with that, there's a drush command to actually install Drupal. So you can do this a couple ways. You can load up your browser and install it that way, or you can just install it using drush. So if you type in drush site-install and then dash database URL equals MySQL root at If you have a password, you got to put in the password. I don't have one on my local. And then the name of the database. So root, localhost, port of your MySQL server, and then the name of your database. So I'm just going to name it LiveStream. And it says you are about to create a LiveStream database. I'm going to click yes. So it's going to create the database for you. You don't even have to worry about that. And now it's going to install. So now you can notice here that it gave me an admin username and a password, which is, all this gobbledygook here. So another cool command is drush upwd, and that's drush update password. So I'm just going to change the admin password to admin, and just so it's easier to remember. So that's pretty much all you have to do to get Drupal up and running. Is those literally 3 commands. You can download Drupal, install it, and then change your password. So did I lose you guys there at all?
Actually, I got a question for you
Sure.
real fast. If you didn't define the DB URL, does it do a in-memory instance of a database?
Not that I'm aware of. I do not believe it's that sophisticated. There is a way to run Drupal in its own, like it runs its own server, but I haven't ever done that.
I had to assume something like hypersonic then?
That's a good question that I do not know the answer to, actually. That's good. That'd be something I would like to look up and figure out. But that would be cool. Okay, so so I'm just going to pull up the site here now.
Yeah, and a quick note on Drush, it's got a lot of other Drupal module integration, so it's going to be instrumental in your entire dev process. I mean, pretty much if you want to save a majority of your time, clear caches, do feature updates, it's got some remote capabilities, so just barely scratch the surface of Drush.
Yeah, oh yeah. And what's cool is that you can actually create your own Drush commands in your own module. So, or you can create Drush global commands that can be used outside of it. Drupal 8's moving towards what's called Drupal console, though, and that's a whole other topic, but it's more of a symphony style component console application, and it can create boilerplate code and do a lot of things that Drush can't do. So my predictions in the future that will probably Drush will no longer be used. It'll be the Drupal console. But Ray found that command I was stumbling around to get. It's drush dl default dash major equals, and then you can set 7, and then when you do that, it'll download whatever the latest version of Drupal 7 is. So thank you, Ray.
Okay, so now we got a base Drupal site downloaded via Drush, and you're bringing up the website.
Yep.
So yeah, show some of this sexy front end that we got.
Okay, so and by the way, since I'm looking at the browser, if you need to like say anything, just interrupt me because I won't know you're like trying to talk. So anyway, here's the sexy front end here with the little Drupal guy here. Welcome to site install. That's what they name it by default. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in here, and we'll take a look at this. Is the Drupal admin portion. You have many options up here, and we won't go over a lot of these because this could take forever. But the first thing, what I want to do is basically go over what makes Drupal so powerful, and why people like myself and really like Drupal. The first thing is what's called content types. And content types are, you can think of it, if you're an object-oriented programmer, you can think of content types as objects. And in fact, you can actually probably set up UML diagrams based off of content types in Drupal if you really wanted to. So to view our content types, you click on structure and then content types. And by default, Drupal gives you two content types, a basic page and an article. And you can create as many content types as you want. So sticking with our theme from last week, we're going to use the whole vehicle type thing just to demonstrate here. So I'm going to add a new content type. I'm going to name it vehicle. And you put the name here and then the description used to create vehicles. And there's some options here. I won't go over all of these. You have the options to preview before you submit it. You have explanation or guidelines down here. When you create new content, do you want to automatically promote it to the front page? Now, this is just a flag. This doesn't actually add it to the front page. So usually I uncheck this. Default, do you want it published? There's several different options. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all of them here. Display author information. By default, Drupal allows you to comment on items. But if you don't, like a vehicle is probably not going to have, I guess you could have a comment if you're viewing a whatever vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and close them. And the menu settings is if you want to add, when you create content, are you wanting to add this content to a menu? If you do, you can add an option in there to add it to any menus that you create. So I'm going to go ahead and save the content type. So now we have vehicles as a content type. And content types are also referred to as nodes. And technical things that they're stored in the node table in the database. So all the content types are stored in the same table, which this is actually one of the performance issues with Drupal, because content types, you have millions and millions of nodes or even thousands of nodes. They're all stored in one table, so you do lose some performance by storing them there. So the next thing that makes Drupal powerful is what's called fields. And fields, you would say, are properties on your content type or your object. So as you can see, by default, they give us a title and a body. And you can see this if you go to click add content and click on vehicle, you can see there's a title and a body. But the powerful thing about Drupal is that it has a built-in field system. So you don't have to program fields or properties on your content types. You just add them into the GUI itself. So you have several different field types. You have a Boolean, a decimal, file, float, image, integer, some lists, long text, term reference, and text. Now you can actually create your own field type, which would be a whole nother thing in itself. So let's go ahead and I'll add a couple. So for a vehicle, of course we'd have like the year. So let's add it as a text field. So click save. Each field has specific settings you can change, but we don't really need to do anything. Do you want to make it a required field? Do you want to add some help text? What's the size of the text field? Plain text or filtered? How many values you want? So you can actually have as many values as you want on a single field. So we'll just leave it like this. And what that does is adds a year here that we can just type 2003 or whatever. You may want to make this a select list if you're really building a website or whatever. And
quick question for you.
Sure.
So I see you're creating fields, and I assume those fields would be entered by any user and be stored in the database, and however Drupal decides to store it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you have a multiple rolling environments. So you would start at, your dev, then you got your staging, then you got your production, because you obviously wouldn't want to do this directly against production. How does it propagate those changes without propagating the data?
That's actually a good question. Most development environments use a module. It's called features, and what features does is it takes things in Drupal, settings, fields, content types, and the likes, and it exports them into PHP code. And so you would roll that code to your other environments, and then you would enable, and a feature is a module, so you would enable that feature, and it would handle all that for you.
Yeah, and so there's going to be a couple benefits for that I think are worthy to say. One, if you're running in code and not off the database, then you're going to get quicker execution times. I mean, just look at the access time in order to hit a database, right? So even if there are things to mitigate that, like caching and whatnot. So I think that's important. And also, if you're using features, then a lot of the settings that would be in MySQL, MySQL is traditionally difficult in order to put in source code management or to put in a repository. So it's another way to track some settings. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you can. It's really a good, useful tool for developing. So you can basically think of features as exporting settings exactly. It doesn't actually export data though. So if you create a lot of content on the site, you're not exporting that. Now there is other options for that.
Manual export, manual import, I assume.
Yeah, there's some modules that you can create in REST, or you can export it. Various other ways to do it. And what's cool about features, and we kind of digressed into this, but that could be a whole show itself.
Sorry to do this to you.
No. No, it's an important thing. Really, you have to develop with features if you're using Drupal. But if you change something in features, like, so say on a vehicle I have a year, and on my dev I have that field that's year, and then if I go into dev and I delete that field year, features will tell me that our database doesn't match up with the code, so something's wrong here. And so we can either acknowledge that and remake our features, or do what's called a revert, where you revert that feature and your year field would come back. So hopefully that's not confusing, but...
Right. Well, also, so let's say if you're developing on localhost, and if you're making some changes, then you can go to the features page, and it will show you whatever's in an overridden status. So at that point, you can see that these are the changes that I have yet to export this feature, and then hence put that in the source control management system of your choice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good way for developers to keep up to date, because if I create stuff in Drupal and I export them as a feature, then I send it to you, you get the feature, and then you go and revert the feature to like a default state, and now you have all my changes. So then you don't have to worry about syncing databases and all that nonsense. So, and Drupal 8 takes a whole different approach. They use the features and the configure CMI. And so that's a whole different thing. I'm going to go ahead and add one more field. I'll add a couple more fields real quick. So let's say mileage. I'll add that as a text field or something. And it's still the same thing. So now we got mileage. And what I'm doing here is I can reorder the way that these show up on this page. So year, if I wanted year before mileage, or mileage before year, you can actually change this. So now you can see these changed. And then I'm going to add one other different type of field. We'll add a condition field, and we'll make it a select list. So let's just say it's in poor, excellent, or fair, and excellent. And you can also set default values. And so this thing's a little bit tricky. So see how it has poor, and then it has the divider here, or whatever you call that. You can actually change the key. It's kind of like a key value pair. So if you, for some reason, want these different, you can actually change the keys. So with that, we now have our vehicle. So we could, you can see if we're building this from scratch or something else, this building a CRUD system like this would take, a good amount of time. And this took us all of like 10 minutes to build this. So, that's one of the advantages of Drupal. So I'm going to move on to the next thing. So the next thing is taxonomy terms. Taxonomy terms are basically, if you think of tagging your blogs as a certain posts, you know how people categorize them. That's what taxonomy does. Or you can use it to tag other things. Any kind of tagging you need to do, you can use taxonomy to do. So in our site, we would use taxonomy for like make and probably our model. So we can tag items with the make and the model. So looks like Gilly, he said I should do Honda Accord. So let's add the make. We'll go ahead and add. We click add terms. We just add terms to it. So we have a Honda, and then what, Chevrolet. I'll add a couple. Ford. So if we click on list here, we can see we have Chevy, Honda, Ford. And then we'll go back to our model, and we'll add Accord, and then we'll add the Chevrolet. Or wait, hold on, I already added that. Corvette. And then what's Ford? Ford F-150. Okay, so now we've got, and these can certainly could have been added as different content types. It's really how you want to create your website. But if we go back to our vehicle and our managed field, I can add a field called make, and I want to reference it to a term. And I can say the make is going to reference the make vocabulary. And you have all these additional settings that we won't go over. And then the model, I'll set that as a term reference as well. And we'll set that to model. And we'll just move these up. I don't know why. So now if we go to add content in our vehicle, so now our vehicle's getting somewhere now. Now we got a title, we got a make, we got a model. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could do some stuff when they click on Chevrolet that you could only show Chevrolet models, whatever. The year, mileage, condition. And actually, while we're in here, let's go ahead and we'll add a image. We'll add a vehicle image here. And the image, and what the good thing about Drupal is you have the image system built in already. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Ford is now including a free puppy with each purchase. Nice. That's funny. Okay, so anyway, so let's go ahead and
So
add.
at least you can have a friend to walk home with. So at least you can have a friend to walk. All right, all right.
That's hilarious. Okay, so now let's just add, I'm going to add one real quick so we can actually see what's going on here. So now we've got the, let's see, the Honda Accord, that was the request. Let's pull it up here. So let's get this guy. Let's get this image. This black one looks cool. All right, so Honda. So this would be more of like an instance of a Honda Accord. So the title would probably be more descriptive, like, I don't know, if you're a dealership. So Honda Accord, it's a 2016. It's got 1,000 miles on it. It's in excellent condition. This car is awesome. The body is basically kind of like what you would add the main content on. And then let's go ahead and let's see, desktop.
Does that take an HTML script?
It does, and actually, right now it's set to filtered HTML and full HTML. You can go into a full. You can actually add WYSIWYGs, or you can go into full edit mode on what tags are allowed, what's not allowed, and all that good stuff. So.
And if you're feeling really stupid and dangerous, you can allow PHP to be parsed from there.
Yeah, you can, and that is usually not advised to do at all. If you can avoid a PHP anywhere inside of Drupal, because one, you can't. If you have a PHP script, you cannot cache that page. It does not allow you to cache it, and also it's a security risk. So, all right. So if you can see my page here, this image is huge. But now we've got we've got actual content on our site. So we could make as many cars as we want and all that good stuff. So the next thing that makes Drupal powerful is what's called view modes. So view modes are a way to display content. So you can think of it as it's the ability to show content in as many different ways as you want and make those components reusable. So view modes are specific to each content type, and there's a module called Display Suite which actually takes view modes and extends it and makes it more powerful. And so I'm going to show briefly how that works here, real quick. So the first thing we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my terminal. Give me a second here. All right, so we're actually going to download some modules. So this is another great thing about Drush is you can download modules from the command line. So you don't have to go to the website, download it, unzip it, move it. You just do drush DL and then the name of the modules. So Display Suite is DS, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of other modules that we're going to use later. So I'm going to just go ahead and do it all at once. CTools is a module that basically other modules use. It's called Chaos Tools, and other modules use its functionality to help with theirs. So I'm going to go ahead and just download, and then views, we'll go over views here shortly. So, all right, so I downloaded it. It says it downloaded Display Suite, CTools, and views. So up here in modules, we're going to find Display Suite. I just done a Control F here. And here's Display Suite. So I'm going to go ahead and enable these. I'll go ahead and enable views. And it's asking me, one of the modules are dependent on Chaos Tools. So it asks me, do you want to enable Chaos Tools because it needs it? So I'm just going to say yes. So that's pretty much that's how you enable module. I mean, we can go into more detail, but
something I liked about that was the fact that it's an intelligent enough tool that it's only grabbing the modules that are most compatible with your current installation of Drupal. So that was nice. It keeps people from having to go and search all over and make sure they're grabbing the right ones. And
yeah, exactly. And so you can tell Drush to download specific version as well if you need to for whatever reason. And
Maybe you want to
So,
try a new feature that's on the dev branch or something like that, or they've made a breaking change, and for compatibility reasons, you want to have an earlier version.
yep, exactly. So view modes. So if you click, so we're back into our structure content types, and so we want to view modes is how we want to display our content. So by default, Drupal has the default one, which is um, this is the default. So it just displays it, information here. And then it comes with a teaser one. You can actually make as many view modes as you want. We won't go into detail on how to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the teaser here. So display suite, what it does is by default, this is all you get when you manage the display. And it's really not that great because there's a lot of stuff. What if I want to wrap the body with a div, or what if I want to add a class to a body? You can do that, using what's called pre-processed functions and a lot of coding. But Display Suite just allows you to do that right here in. So a lot of times when you're building a website, you spend a lot of time here just straight in these display and just moving stuff around, testing out. So Display Suite allows you to have different layouts. So you have a 2-column, you can have 3-column. You can actually build your own Display Suite templates, which makes it extremely powerful because you can completely change how this is viewed very quickly and effectively. So on the teaser, we'll just go with a 1-column layout. So it's just one. So then you have the content. So what I want, if we're gonna say we're gonna have a teaser, I'll say I want the images, I want the image, I want the title, and maybe I'll just put the condition. So
Man, and views is really one of the things that I feel is a major selling point for Drupal. Massive amount of integrations it does, and pretty much all the tables that you'll see in different spots, whether it's going to be the admin or on the front end, like a large majority of them are going to be handled by views.
yeah, and actually, it's funny that you say that because the last thing that I'm going to show, which really is probably the most powerful thing in Drupal, is views. And the way views is a way of displaying content in various ways depending on a specific criteria. And I like to call it it's a GUI for SQL. It allows you to create extremely complex SQL queries in a matter of minutes without knowing anything about SQL.
Dude, a left join, an inner join, and a right join all in the same statement. Like how? Like what? Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's really the meat. Content types, view modes, and views is the meat and potatoes of Drupal. If they didn't have that, it would not be as powerful as it is. So I'm going to show you a view now. So say that we have a page that we want. So we're in our theoretical dealership that we're creating. Say we want a page where you can go to the page, and I want to view all the vehicles that we've entered in, and I want to view them as not the full content, but just a snippet of information. So we'll call it.
Chad, you still trying to show the CLI? I'm not sure if you're screen sharing what you're intending to right now.
Oh wait, hold on. Oh shit, sorry. Have I been sharing that the whole time?
Recently.
Oh shit. Okay, I went through like a whole thing, and
All good.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
keep going. I think we're following.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, so briefly, what you guys probably missed real quick is I enabled Display Suite and some modules. I went to structure, content types, and under vehicle I clicked on Manage Display. By default, the default view mode, which is this right here, is what you see when you actually go to the page of that content. The teaser view mode is a view mode. By default, you can't reach it. It does nothing by itself. So what I did was I created Display Suite takes view modes, and it's basically view modes on steroids. It allows you to create layouts that are dynamic. You could have a 2-column layout, 2-column stacked. You could have 3 columns. And this is a way that you can manage, and you can do this on the default one as well. But on our teaser, what I did was I just set it as 1 column, and then what I did was I moved my fields up here, so vehicle, image, title, and condition. So our teaser view mode is only going to show these 3 things. And so then what I did was I went to structure, and I'm going to create our view now. So I click add new view, type in vehicles, and I'm going to create a page, and it's going to be /vehicles. And I'm going to make an unformatted list of teaser view modes, okay? And I'm going to display 50 at a time and use a pager. So one of the first things I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to filter by I only want to show vehicles. So views has what's called a filter criteria, which you can only pull certain content or certain criteria or whatever. So really by default, this is about all we need right now. So if we go to /vehicles, I will see the teaser. I should have probably made this image a lot smaller. However, you can see the image and the title and then what condition it is. So this is the teaser of this specific content. Does that make sense?
How easily can those main images be resized? Is that a function of the upload where you set dimensions, or?
Actually, this is a little bit sidetracked, but since we're coming up on the end of it anyways, I can go ahead and show this. Drupal has a built-in what's called image styles. And so by default, you have the thumbnail, the medium, and large, but you can actually add a certain style. So we can call this vehicle style. And I can do, I can crop this down. So actually probably what I'm do is a scale and crop. And we'll make it a 500 width by, I don't know, this is probably not going to look right, but actually 500, that seems too big. So let's do 250 by 250 here. And update style. So then what you can do is you can go back to your manage display, and I can go to my teaser and I say I want to display the image style called vehicle. So since we're in our teaser and our view pulls in teasers, then if we actually go to /vehicles, the image is broken. But what that done was it cropped it, and the reason why is I can probably fix this real quick. It's probably because my folder is not writable. So Drupal tried to create the file and was unsuccessful. So let's just try to change something real quick. Okay, so I created. So like I said, so now we've got a teaser, and if you had multiple teasers, you could show up here and that kind of stuff. And what's cool is you can do, while we're here, we can filter on, we can do what's called exposed filters. So if we want the visitor to be able to view certain types of makes, we can do what's called an exposed filter here. So now we can actually sort our view based on certain criteria. So this is what really makes Drupal extremely powerful. This is an extremely basic version of this, but just think if you ran a dealership, we've got content types and a view of your vehicles up in less than an hour, and um, so it's a pretty powerful tool. But let's see. I think with that. I think that's it, honestly. I think that I am done.
Okay, Chad, real quick, as far as the image cropping, I just want to say, well, and for the rest of everything, there, there's a multitude of modules that extend and enhance this. So specifically for the image crop, you can have modules exist that will automatically do feature recognition, so it'll do a smart crop. You can set up a series of crop steps, so it's very extendable for what image cropping can do and what views can do and what features and Drupal. I guess that's pretty much one of the good things about Drupal. So as compared to WordPress, and you were does have content types, but you have to pretty much have a plugin that will make a new content type. So you got to write code for it. So Drupal, and one way that it distinguishes itself, you were talking about those content types, and I think it's just it's really important to note that any entity that you want to map, you can do that fluently. So, for example, let's say like a real estate, right? If you were going to do real estate press, you'd have certain things that you'd have to overcome. You'd have to create this content type and some of the associating things. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on those couple points.
Oh yeah, and so a guy named Doug Van, which I actually met at DrupalCorn, he's viewing in on us, and he reminded me that I called the Drupal guy the Drupal icon, which is it's the icon for Drupal. So I did want to give a shout out before I didn't notice that he said that. But I actually met Doug at a DrupalCorn one time, so it's funny he's watching in right now.
Nice.
So, but yeah, the great thing about Drupal is that it is extremely flexible, and I will say this: the company that I work for, they use a lot of different CMSs, and a lot of these CMSs cost money, and but they are not as flexible as Drupal. Drupal, that is the one. A lot of people may consider it sloppy in some aspects, but it is extremely flexible, and you can create content and display it whatever way that you want, very, very easily compared to a lot of these other ones. Like for a lot of these other ones, if you want a simple form or a different template or a different layout, I mean, you're talking days and days and days before that they can make that happen. Which as in Drupal, I mean, it's nothing, to do. Once you know what you're doing, though, that's the key. There's a huge learning curve in Drupal.
How often do you find yourself digging into the PHP side of Drupal?
A lot more often what you would think, but there is sometimes I've built websites where there was little to no code involved, and in fact, there's sometimes Drupal's API is pretty powerful. So there's sometimes I will not write a single query on a website build because all that can be built in using Drupal's API. You can kind of form your queries, or they have what's called an entity filled query, which is an object that you can build and get content based on certain criteria, and it builds the query for you. And so that's a whole nother lesson in itself. We can probably explore at a later date. But, what's cool is Drupal you can do the one thing about Drupal is you can everything that we just did, we could have done in code. You
Oh,
know.
absolutely. The reason why I ask is I come from the life ray side of things, which is more or less the Java's semi-equivalent version to Drupal.
Oh, okay.
And we work with portlets, but it's got a heavily customizable interface like this, mostly through web content. It has all the propagation features for moving it through the environments, the auto SQL generation, things like that. Now, what I do is mostly Java-based, and it works on heavily customized portlets that have completely different features than that ever came out of box,
Hmm.
and are very much domain specific. I assume you run into similar problems with Drupal.
Yeah, yeah. Say that one more time. Sorry.
Uh, the need for heavily customized pieces. How often do you run into that?
Uh,
Yeah,
That requires going into the code to make the change.
Okay, hey,
yeah. Go
let
ahead.
me well actually answer that, but then I want to interject and kind of and say some of the scopes of the sites that we've done. Both you, me, I know Josh has done some stuff. So I mean, this scales. I mean, not maybe not infinitely, but yeah. So how much code, or I guess finish up that question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, he's asking how much do you run into like where you're highly customizable content, or did I say that right?
Yeah, yeah. How often do you run
Well,
into heavily customized content?
you know, a decent amount, and that's what's cool about the view modes or display suite. So if we want to display a content, a certain content type in various ways, we can create a new view mode and we can drag the fields on there. And actually, what's cool about Display Suite is you can create what's called a custom Display Suite fields, and that gives you access to the node object, which it has all the properties of that content type. So you could have you'd have a PHP object with a year, make, model, or anything tied to that content type, and you can take that and create in PHP your own custom, uh, however you want to render it. You know, so like say that if you had the geo coordinates of you have latitude and longitude as a field, and they're both filled out. Well, you want to turn that into a map. You can do that with Drupal. They have a module, but if you want to do a custom, you could create a display suite field custom in code, and you can grab the node object and grab the latitude and longitude and do all your custom stuff you want, and then just return and display it that way. So it is extremely flexible, and you can actually programmatically grab a node and render it in whatever view mode you want. So you could highly dynamically change the way that a piece of content is rendered, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. So this kind of makes me think a little bit about the hook system. So
Mhm.
essentially, when multiple parts of Drupal are happening, and definitely with the focus on nodes at each stage of that, I think whether it's going to be a display or well, could you go just shortly into the node and the hooks and how you can alter content?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things I didn't even touch on about the Drupal hook system, which is great, is that if you're building on Drupal's API and you're doing it correctly, you can alter other modules' output if they allow you to. So, for example, if you had a form, okay, for example, if we have a field on a content type and we don't want that field to be accessed, or we want it quote unquote a private field, um, we can hook into Drupal's node or into Drupal's system and alter that form to any way that we want. So you can completely change the way a form or anything that there's so many hooks. I mean, we could talk about hooks all day, but that's one of the powerful things is you create these contrib modules, and if they're doing it right and they're hooking into Drupal, you can alter their output without touching their code. So you should more than likely, unless you're running a patch on a module that you're downloaded from Drupal, unless you're patching it, you would rarely ever alter the code. You would attempt to use Drupal's hook system to modify their information, if that makes any sense. So it makes it powerful because you can do a lot of stuff with it, especially with modules that already exist.
I have a feeling if I ever get a chance to do a life array intro, you're going to find a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah, I would love to see something similar to how this works because it is extremely powerful and it's not pretty by all means a lot of times. However, it is. You can rapidly develop websites with Drupal.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think if you're going to pick Drupal, then you're probably going to come from a bit more of a development ground than, forgive me, some script kiddies or some less complex platforms. So if you are going to do it, then I strongly suggest to do the tools that we at least talked about. But one, do Drush. Do it and learn it. It's going to save you time. 2, features. That's pretty amazing. And 3, again, like views. Pretty much what distinguish Drupal. And as far as on the front end side, Chad's a big proponent of Display Suite, like we saw. You can do some really customized layouts with that. But yeah, I would kind of, as far as on the development side, go deep into those modules initially, or you might just not be getting the bang for the buck. So, okay,
Yeah.
well, I think now would be an appropriate time to do a quick round table and see if we do have any closing either questions or comments, and then we're going to do a quick well, I guess at the same time, go ahead and say one thing that you found this week in the tech universe that is interesting. Just interesting to you. It could be Pokemon something, but okay. So I'll open it up real quick for general questions and comments.
Board owners recommend Dodge.
What's that?
No comment.
No comment. Chad, do you have a summary you want to say before we say our cool thing that we like in the tech world?
Well, I guess the summary is we just hit kind of the main points of Drupal. There's so much stuff we could go into. We could probably talk all night about Drupal, but it's, if you're a developer watching and you're looking to get into PHP development, you're looking for a CMS to use, I would say Drupal is the one to go to.
Would you be interested in maybe in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or something like that down the road, doing something that builds upon what we've done here, to where anybody that watches in between now and then, maybe we could throw some stuff down there in the description and be like, look forward to the to the next one on this date, or something like that, or.
Yeah. We could probably just piggyback onto this one and just go slowly create like an entire dealership website.
Sure.
Just start from there and just hit the make a real simple one and just kind of chip away at it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, and whenever of course we'd probably like to switch it up a little bit and have some things in between, but it'd be cool to go into some of the more advanced stuff for those that might be looking for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And quickly, some of the sites that we have done or that we've worked on as developers, we've got, let's see, Applebee's, Houlihan's, we've done San Diego Zoo, let's see, something for Department of Defense. There have been several awesome websites of pretty high caliber that are running off of.
Yeah. A lot of the
Might still.
A lot of the main So some of the high-end websites, I'll give you a quick shout out to some of the websites that are built on Drupal. I didn't personally build, but a lot of the sports teams, the Seahawks, the Dallas Cowboys, that's on Drupal. Like almost all front-facing government sites are on Drupal. A ton of colleges use Drupal, and the reason why is it's open source and it's free. Sci-fi.com, WWE's on Drupal, the Weather Channel's on Drupal. That's all I can think of on the top of my head. So.
Okay, all right. I guess we're going to go ahead and transition to
All right.
what have you found this week in tech land that you think is cool? Could be a gadget, a gizmo, could be some code or a system. So for me, I am going to go with Team Foundation Server and the integration with release management. So pretty much a single place where we've been able to have our code, have a discussion about that, be able to see our agile planning as far as Kanban or Kanban and segregate that into sprints, have drag and drop as far as for the status of what it is, and then with the release and the build and release really makes it an awesome project from inception to completion. So I think that's really cool. Anybody want to speak up and go for the next one?
Yeah, I'm smoking tobacco.
I'll do one real quick. The Oculus Rift. I know it's not new, but it's getting ready to come out, and I think
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty cool when it does. It's only $600.
Especially on the web. I don't know if you guys have seen, but you guys know that Survivor Man show where he walks around? Well, he's been walking around for the past year with 3 or 4 GoPros, statically on a brace around, and you can actually go to Discovery Channel VR and start to see some of his shows in full VR.
Cool.
Full video VR. So if you had an Oculus Rift, as he's walking around, you could be walking around looking at different shit that he's looking at. So even on the web, without any kind of viewers or special environments, there's going to be some really cool stuff coming along. And YouTube's going to fully support it. YouTube already supports full 3D and 4K. So, we're going to have full VR on YouTube in less than a year.
Nice.
Still waiting for AR. Well, I don't have anything new and cool. My current problems exist as trying to find a way to compile JavaScript into DLLs and have them access natively like C libraries. So basically a cross compiler.
You're working on trying to do that?
I'm not working on that. I'm looking for a library that hopefully does it for me before I come back up and go build my own DLL, which admittedly isn't that hard, but I think it'd be a really cool thing.
Just build it.
Yeah, I probably should.
Build it and they will come.
Well, ASM.js gets you 80% there. So.
Dude, are you looking at any Visual Studio solutions? Because you can write in JavaScript and build native C# and C++ apps with JavaScript.
Right, JScript. It's not JavaScript, it's JScript, but it doesn't give you you can't import ASM.js as far as I've been able to tell into that. You've got to, or it's just JScript, so I can't sit there and actually go down and access system resources like I could with a inline code, a native code.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with JScript. It's one of those F# things that I've kind of been real scared about.
Yeah, right. Okay, Gilly, on to you. Final. What's your find?
Right now, actually, and this isn't really new. It's been in the works with mostly AMD and NVIDIA, but that HBM memory. It's basically stackable, 3D stackable memory. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay. I was like, oh, yeah. So it's basically stackable memory. In other words, right? Because right now, this may not matter in the sense of dev, but when it comes to various things that a GPU can do, because after all it is it's a coprocessor, right? So,
All in the way of dev.
Yeah.
We depend on you guys. You guys are our lifeblood, man. You got to understand that. I give a shout out to anybody who works in that side.
Yeah. Yeah, those right now, but basically the new hotness is well, they're stacking, and because I guess we've reached Moore's law again with graphics cards, and well, this HBM is allowing much faster RAM, like on the fly. So pretty soon you'll be having video cards with RAM slots in it. To me, and I'm just like, oh, like I don't really. I'm a gamer, so naturally I'm gonna be like, oh yeah. Hence your Oculus Rift, because that's where this really kind of comes into play. So what I'm talking about really kind of plays into everything.
And essentially that's what they're trying to do with SLI. You know, you're jumping on the other GPU, you're jumping on the other memory, but why not just put a new slot in, or why not provide a socket? And let somebody slop in a new GPU, you know?
The problem with SLI, though, and it's been misconstrued because SLIs and Crossfire have caused there's been a lot of issues with it. Because what it is, it's rated graphics cards. And I'm like, why doesn't that memory stack? Because in my head, and I'm sorry, and I think in most of our heads, that's how we think, oh, yeah, I got two 4-gig GPUs, so I got 8 gigs of video RAM. No,
but it's in parallel, not series.
Yeah. And I call it rated GPUs. That's my new term for it.
Yeah, you still got that bottleneck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that we should go ahead and close up this session of DevChat Late Night. However, if we all want to stick around, I just want to say, first of all, thanks again, Chad, for preparing and executing pretty flawlessly this demo. I think. I think we got a lot better understanding of Drupal, and maybe some more questions, but put in the comments below if you have any questions that you would like to possibly see addressed in version or in episode 2 of Build Your Dealership. I want to say thanks a lot to everybody else for coming out, and I look forward to doing this again. So I think that we're going to start getting our schedule set out a little bit more. Think about what you're going to be doing, and don't let us ask you. Tell us. All right.
And by all means, if any of our viewers have any ideas on what types of shows or what types of web technologies they've really been struggling with or having some issues with, let us know, and we'll do what we can to address them.
We'll bring out the drones, we'll fire up the AI, we'll open up the 3D virtual world multi-user environment, we'll connect biofeedback. The sky's the limit. So we just want to do cool, innovative tech that is going to be bringing you, hopefully, solutions to your problems. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your evening, gentlemen, and this is AlphaStack's DevChat Late Night. What is this, the first? Because the last one was pilot. But anyways, second episode, signing out.
All right, see ya.